my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. I am so excited to have you here as part of this webinar today. We are going to discuss all the steps and strategies that you need in order to properly resolve conflict in your relationships so you can keep your resentment tank on empty and you can remain vulnerable to your partner, which is an absolute necessity if you want to maintain your feeling of being in love. So, I'll tell you a little bit about everything that we're going to go in through today. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. I think you're going to learn some really amazing tools through this webinar that you can apply to real life very quickly and see changes and see transformation very efficiently. So we'll cover a 3-step method. We'll cover some really key concepts and tools that you'll need in order to properly transform communication in your relationship. We'll also cover a few other tips that are just important, some anecdotal stories that will help you to recognize yourself through some of these patterns that you'll hear from past clients I've worked with, previous experiences that I've had with different individuals, so that all of these tools and all of this information can really be made tangible, okay? So if you're here, I imagine it's probably because you're feeling like you keep hitting a wall when it comes to communication in your relationship. Maybe you feel like you keep trying to connect with your partner, connect with a family member, a loved one of some sort, and share something that's been on your heart or share something that's really been bothering you for quite some time. And every time you do, it's like you can't really get through to them. You don't fully feel seen, heard, understood, or maybe you just feel like you can't properly have a conversation without it resulting in a conflict that's left as unfinished business. And this can be really challenging for relationships of any sort, whether it's a friend, a family member, a coworker, or colleague, whoever it is in your life, especially a romantic partner. It can be so challenging because every time we don't work through a conflict all the way, we basically build an invisible wall between ourselves and that person. And our subconscious mind stores everything. And so now we see that person through this filter of our past experiences. And this filter, if we don't actually go into those past experiences that are still unresolved, then it really creates this disconnect between ourselves and the people we love over time. And we really have to be able to dive into some of these challenges, bring them to the surface, make them conscious, and properly work through them. And this is what you're going to be learning in this webinar today. And this can really change, when we have these unfinished pieces of business with somebody, when we have resentment towards a person that we love and we care about and we don't want to feel that way towards. All of these things are transformable once you've isolated the problem, identified it, and then just apply these simple steps that I'm going to be teaching you. So what we know is that memory is formed more easily and stored more effectively when there's a deeper and stronger emotional imprint. So by expressing vulnerability, research also shows that we have a much greater chance of being heard, and whatever we're trying to get heard about, there's a much greater chance that the person we're expressing it to remembers it. So I'm going to give you the steps to start off with this conflict communication piece, and then I'm going to go into some other really cool tips and strategies you can also use just to improve your communication as a general rule on a general level, some things that are really important, okay? So first I'm going to give you these steps, and then we'll go through and we'll break them down afterwards, and we'll sort of drill down into them and make it really simplified, okay? So the first step, and you sort of want to practice these things ahead of time, right? You don't want to just dive in on the spot and hope you'll remember. You want to sit down and write these things down, imagine a couple scenarios, run them through so that you're prepared, because again, we have years of not being told the right way to communicate, not being taught the proper tools and strategies. And so it's going to take, you may not go the first time and just get it right away. So it's 3 simple steps, and then we're going to sort of drill them out. So step 1, when things bother you about other people or circumstances or relationships, you want to ask yourself, what do you make it mean about you? So for example, you see those clothes on the floor. What do you make it mean about you in that moment? And I'll list some core wounds when we go back and break down these steps again, because they're actually core wounds that I found, 22 core wounds that I found in my years of working with people. And it always comes back to one of those 22 same things. So I'm going to give you the major ones today, and you'll probably find that you really resonate with a couple of them. So step 1 is when something bothers you, when something's triggering you, don't look at the surface situation and judge it. Ask yourself, what's the meaning I'm giving to this? What am I making this mean about me? Okay. Step 2, Then you want to ask yourself, what do you need to feel in order to make the situation feel better? Okay, so what do you need? And you want to be as specific as possible in step 2 here. So for example, if you say, oh, I need to feel support from my partner, be specific, because if you go to communicate this, which you will after we go through it, support for you might be words of affirmation, might be some kind of validating encouragement or compliment, versus support from your partner's point of view might be cooking you a meal. And so you might tell your partner, I need to feel more supported. They might go cook you a meal, and it may not be in the love language that you receive it. And then you can miss the mark. So it's really important that you're very specific and spell out what you need. And then step 3 is, what is the strategy to get this need met? And that sort of incorporates that example. It's giving the how to yourself. And make no mistake here, this is you hearing yourself first. And just doing this work is a necessity in terms of being self-aware, being able to communicate and articulate things to other people, and to really feeling like you're kind of building this relationship to yourself, understanding yourself more deeply, introspecting. And it will help you to feel like emotions and emotional challenges are solvable problems, because one of the number one reasons we have such a hard time solving our emotional problems is because we haven't isolated the specific thing that's causing us pain. And I have a whole bunch of information about this. I have a whole course about this at the Personal Development School that I won't get into right now. But we have to learn how to actually process our emotions by isolating the situation, understanding the underlying meaning, and then doing the work to reprogram and strategize what we need to come out of it. So, and I'm getting off topic. So I'm just going to review those 3 steps really quickly, and then give you a couple other tools, and then we're going to dive into those steps in a way that's like very systematic so you can practice, okay? So step 1, when things bother you, when something's triggering you, what are you making it mean about you, okay? Or what's the meaning you're giving to it? Step 2, what do you need to feel in order for this situation to feel better, okay? So think of it as, what do you need? Step 3, what is your strategy to get this need met? What's the how? Okay. Now, once you've done this, you are ready to communicate and be heard. But I'm going to give you a few other little key tips before you begin. So, number 1, we all have core wounds. And chances are, if you're fighting with your partner is also experiencing some of their core wounds or triggers. If there's this back and forth and you can feel like you're both charged and activated and frustrated, it's because you're experiencing core wounds. So let's say you're interpreting something as being disrespected or unloved. And let's say your partner's interpreting something as, oh, you're telling me I'm not good enough. Okay. And because we all have painful past experiences that our subconscious stores and keeps there in order to try to protect us from exposing ourselves to these things again, they tend to come up for us. And so, when 2 people are arguing, both people tend to be in that space. So if you really want to master this and you want to sort of take this even to the next level, you can take a moment when I'm going to take you through how to do this on a worksheet in a little bit. And you can think about what might be triggering your partner, especially when I tell you the core wounds. So what core wounds do you think your partner might be experiencing? And maybe that's why they're not hearing you. And the way we communicate, this is another, actually, let me give you an analogy about that first, okay? So I was working with a couple, again, years ago, different couple, different scenario. And one of the partners, so the female in the situation, had a big core wound around feeling unheard, feeling like she couldn't reach her partner, express herself. And her partner had a really big core wound around feeling abandoned. Okay. So when he was young, he was left by his mother, and then his father didn't really show up, and he was in foster care. And it was this painful situation. He had, some really deep abandonment challenges that he experienced. And so this woman really loved this man, and she would go and she would try to have this conversation with him, and she would express herself. And as soon as she would start to express, he would go, "Oh, you're leaving. Just leave. It's fine. I know you want to leave. It's fine. Just leave. I know it's coming." And he would always do that. And of course, she felt sad for him, but at the same time, it was really triggering for her, because here she was just trying to have a conversation. And every time she would go to speak, he would shut her down out of his own wounds, but then she would feel more unheard. So you see this loop, right? Where she feels unheard. She goes to express. He feels abandoned. He shuts her down. She feels more unheard. She goes to express more. He feels like he's getting even closer to being abandoned, pushes her away further. And now they're in this loop. And guess what? Every single relationship has usually two core patterns where both of you are triggering each other on autopilot and not recognizing it. So you want to be clear about your core wounds so you can know what the triggers are that you're tripping in each other all the time. It's so important for transformation and proper communication. So this isn't an absolute necessity to know and to use, the part about like understanding your partner's core wounds, but it's a very helpful part of the process of bringing your communication to the next level. Today, we're just going to really worry about those 3 steps. But I'm just going to share some other cool little tidbits in here. Another amazing tool is to validate your partner's feelings. I can't tell you, like I call this a magic wand all the time, because I will be in a situation and I can think of one person I've seen who is the angriest person I've for sure ever seen in my office. And he would get so mad, this guy, he would stand up and he would throw his arms up when he would be talking about what his wife did. And he would slam doors and he would raise his voice and run out of the room. And he had a lot of anger management issues. And so the first couple of times I met with him, I was like, wow, this is really intense. And then as I started to get to know him more and understand more the triggers, I could just validate his feelings. So I would say, hey, I see that you're feeling frustrated and angry and emotionally abandoned right now. And this anger in this man who was flailing around, you know, I knew that anger is just the cover emotion for hurt. And really underneath there's a lot of hurt. And as soon as I would just validate his feelings, just let him know, hey, I understand you, this man's anger would go from a 10 to like a 2. And he would sit back down and he would just right away, like it was like a magic wand. He would turn around and just cooperate and be present and come back. And so when his wife started doing this, wow, can you imagine how much their communication changed? It was so beautiful to see. So when we get so heated in arguments, right, we think a lot of the time that we're arguing about who's right and who's wrong. And really, nobody's arguing about right and wrong. They're arguing about trying to be seen, heard, and understood by the people they love. And this is part of why arguments can become so challenging, is because it's really hurtful to us that someone we love and trust so deeply doesn't seem to hear us or understand us at all when we're triggered. And we feel like they're so disconnected from us. And at a deeper subconscious level, we feel really let down and we feel really abandoned emotionally. And so, you know, you're not just feeling that when an argument is happening. Your partner or the person you love is feeling that as well. They feel the same way. They feel confused and hurt that you don't get them in that moment. And so when we validate feelings, this is what we're bringing back into the relationship again, even in those painful, triggering moments, just by saying to somebody, hey, I see that you're feeling upset. I see that you're feeling not good enough or diminished or abandoned or whatever it might be that you think your partner might be experiencing or that you're experiencing and you can express to your partner. Just by communicating on that level, we bring the cooperation, the connection back into that conversation that's lost when we're getting lost in what we're supposed to be discussing. We're talking about the laundry instead of the feeling disrespected, okay? So one other really important tool is that just a practice, and not even a tool, a really important practice on a regular basis is to recognize that part of why we don't get heard is because what are our earliest subconscious associations around conflict? Childhood. So our earliest and deepest, most deeply wired programs in our subconscious from childhood are like, we get criticized as a child and it's usually followed up with some kind of punishment or shaming, or we're made to feel helpless. Like we never win arguments when we're a kid. And we have a lot of stored emotion around that. And we're afraid of feeling like that in our adult lives. We're afraid of feeling helpless again, or powerless, or small, or out of control, because it didn't feel good as a child to feel that way. And even though the vast majority of the time our parents were just, arguing their point or punishing us or doing whatever they were doing to try to protect us from something and to try to teach us something that maybe we weren't quite getting or we were rebelling against, even though the intentions were probably really good a lot of the time, or maybe our parents were really wounded and they were taking their anger out on us, and that's not good. But even though that stuff might have been with good intentions a lot of the time, it doesn't change the fact that our subconscious stored it as really painful. And so again, when we want to be heard by our partner, we want to be really careful that we don't sound like we're criticizing. And so when we say, you didn't pick up the laundry on the floor, our partner hears it as criticism. And again, their subconscious goes into this fight or flight state, and they're not listening to you talk about the laundry. They're protecting themselves from this stored association that's programmed in their subconscious from childhood that says, conflict, criticism, it means pain, it means helplessness, it means powerlessness, it means all these things that I don't like. And now the person is in fight or flight mode, and of course you don't get heard. But here's something different. When we can say, hey, I'm feeling this way, or hey, I interpret the situation this way, we take the attack, the perceived attack, the even opportunity for somebody to perceive it as attack out of the mix. And now it's about, hey, I'm communicating from a space of vulnerability. I'm not criticizing you, I'm talking about me. And now we get an opportunity to be heard. So of course, vulnerability isn't the most comfortable thing in the whole entire universe. Of course, it can feel scary and it can feel confusing, but it's also a necessity for our own healing, because through our vulnerability, through enacting vulnerability again and showing up for ourselves in vulnerable moments to properly communicate, we actually heal a lot of those past stored associations that say, vulnerability feels terrible and you always lose when you're vulnerable, because now we can show up. We can have proper conversations that connect us, that heal, that express us, get heard, get seen, get validated, and now vulnerability starts to get stored positively in the subconscious mind. So I'm going to go back through the steps really briefly, and I'm going to just expand them for you, okay, to make everything make sense. So if you want to get a pen and paper, I'm going to sort of open these steps up a little bit, give you a little bit more detail so that you can just master these steps and tools that I'm going to share. So step one, okay? When something's triggering you or an event is triggering you, what are you making it mean about you? So I'm not going to give you all 22 core wounds that I found on my journey, but there really are 22 core wounds that I found consistently it trails back to. And there's sort of a hierarchy in there of what it tends to be even more so. But I don't want to overwhelm you with information just right now, so I'm going to give you some really common, popular ones, and I bet a couple will resonate with you. So common core wounds that I see are, I am not good enough, I am disrespected, I am unloved, I don't matter, I am unheard, I am abandoned, or I am alone. And you can think of these things, think of a situation where you felt really triggered and, did anything in there resonate with you? And if you didn't find anything in there directly, okay, then just feel free to write out, like, what did I make the situation mean about me? In our courses at the Personal Development School, I have an entire course on this, core wounds, the repatterning of these core wounds at a subconscious level so they don't come back as triggers is some really amazing stuff. But I'll get into that. So that's step one, okay? See which core wounds resonate with you. Step two, you want to ask yourself, what do you need in order for the situation to feel better? And remember, you want to be as specific as possible. So some examples are, I need to feel validated, I need to feel reassured. Often I see this when people feel like they might be abandoned or alone. Maybe they need to feel that your actions, maybe you need to feel like your partner's actions are demonstrating respect. Maybe you need to feel like they're respecting your authority or your freedom or your decisions. And so they give you the space to make those decisions and support them in some way, validate them, right? Maybe you need to feel like your perspective is understood. And so you need the person to be able to, put themselves in your shoes for a moment and say, yeah, I can see why you would feel that way. So whatever it is, we want to be really specific. You want to add the how, okay? Because you're giving the person a strategy. Just like I was saying before, you could say, I need to feel respected. And then the person thinks respecting you is not arguing with your decisions. And really you wanted the person to do something as an action that demonstrated respect, or to tell their friends and family that they respect you when you're there, or whatever it might be. Okay. So we want to get really specific. Now, for this step, a lot of people tell me they don't know their needs. Okay. So I do have on our Personal Development School website a free worksheet that has a ton of needs. It's very normal to not know your needs. Don't worry about it. Again, we're not taught this stuff, right? Really important stuff that we are not taught. So I do have a free worksheet there where it has tons of common needs, your tertiary needs, which are like your moment-to-moment needs. And you can go through there and you'll see that needs are definitely on there that will help you to answer that question if you feel like you're stuck. So step 2, what do you need to feel better in this situation? And then step 3, what's your strategy to get this need met? So you want to give yourself a specific step to get this need met that either you can meet or you can express to your partner and get it met. And because this conflict resolution piece is all about expressing to your partner and getting heard, we're really going to be focusing on applying this step to our partner. But I do want you to know that we can meet our own needs as well, and it also has a healing impact. Again, I'll cover that at another time, maybe in another webinar, but I have an entire personal development school course on your needs, on understanding your basic human needs, your personality needs that have so much to do with your life purpose, and then your tertiary needs, or moment-to-moment needs, which are usually related to other people, specific circumstances, and situations that you might be experiencing. So we want to familiarize ourselves with this. We can't even fully reach our highest potential when we don't understand what our needs are, right? It's like, if I don't know my needs, how can I ever possibly get them met? And if I don't get them met, how can I possibly feel completely fulfilled in my life? So again, I have an entire course on this, but there's a worksheet that's free on the Personal Development School website. So now that you've enacted these 3 steps, we just want to practice. So usually we've spent our entire lives trying to hide and repress our feelings to some degree. It's like we don't want to show that we were upset because we don't want to seem weak, or we don't want to seem inferior, or like somebody's getting to us and give them the power. Like there are so many things that, because we had painful experiences in childhood like this, we assume that it'll be like that again in our adult lives, and it's just not the case. You know, I can remember being like this. I can remember I personally came from like really traumatic childhood. We could say quite high on the 10 scale, and there was lots of violence in my home and lots of really, really not good and not okay communication. And I took that into my early adult relationships. I took that into how I showed up, and because I didn't know any better, right? Like so many of you guys probably watching this, it's like, where do we learn this stuff from? And to be quite honest, I look back on those times in my life and I'm like, oh my gosh, relationships were so hard then. Like, you're storing all this stuff, you're feeling all of it, you're afraid to express it, you have to keep it close and protect yourself from it. And then when you start making this a norm in your communication, relationships feel so much better. They feel easy, they feel connected, there's a flow, and conflict doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels like an opportunity to resolve something we didn't realize was happening. And wow, this is great. We get this opportunity to see that there was a wall being built between us, break it down as quickly as possible, and become closer because of that, being vulnerable and loving in a relationship. So practice this first before you just jump right into it, unless you feel like you're ready to go, and that's amazing too. But I would sit down, I would write out a few times that you felt triggered, and I would pull that through the first steps. Okay, so for example, I felt triggered the other day when my partner forgot to call me back. Okay, write that. Okay, what did I make that mean about me? What did I need in that situation to feel better? And what's a strategy to get that need met? And remember, you can meet that need yourself, or you can ask for your need to be met from your partner. We're going to try to focus on asking in this specific teaching. Okay, so think of what your partner might have felt as well. Maybe if you got in a fight over it, or you were arguing about it, what was your partner feeling? Why did they feel triggered at the time? What core wound might they have been experiencing, or what meaning might they have been giving to this situation? Okay, so these are the most important first steps. I do have an entire course on this as well at the Personal Development School, and I have a done for you conflict communication sheet where there are all the sort of fill in the blanks. It's really simplified, and that's super available. But so many people came to me and asked me about this content and this material that I just thought, okay, I'll put some free material out there. I also have a ton of free material on YouTube, like tons and tons of videos with steps, strategies, so many things about your attachment style, which play a tremendously powerful role in your relationships, how you show up in your personality, and how you govern and structure your life, like just profound. And then if you feel like you want to really take things to the next level, I highly recommend joining our Personal Development School program. So in the Personal Development School, we have, so what I basically do in there is I make content super affordable. I have unlimited courses, tons of different courses that are for real life, that like literally target key areas of your life. mastering your emotional state, conflict communication, understanding your attachment styles, your needs, your personality programming, overcoming self-sabotage, procrastination. So many courses. Literally have written over 50 courses now and launched the first huge batch. So there's lots in there, and they come with 2 live webinars a week with me. So literally it's like group coaching. You can come in, you can ask your questions as you're going through the courses. Every course has workbooks, material, reprogramming processes, specific tools, done for you worksheets where you can just fill in the blanks and get the results that you're looking for and find this deeper understanding and awareness about yourself. And there's also this forum, so you can connect with like-minded people in your area. You can have mastermind groups where you can sort of break out and do the work and practice with other people who are on their personal growth journey, want to learn, grow, just practice and experience. And I also go in there regularly, and I can check out all the questions, make sure everything's answered. If I see popular questions, I'll make free content videos about them. So everything is there for you. It's nurturing. It's there to help make sure that like the right tools, the right things you need are being harvested and watered so that you can keep growing and expanding like crazy. The membership is super affordable to anybody. It should be affordable to a college student. And there are so many things that we just didn't learn growing up that we deserve to learn now. So that's why I've sort of put this out here and made this so affordable, because I can remember a time in my journey very, very strongly where I didn't have tools, and I became really passionate about finding out this stuff because I had a whole lot of healing to do, some really major challenges in my life, and I wish that there was something like this that was affordable, available to everybody, and that was giving me like the right information about the root causes of my problems, and then really clear practical steps about how to start transforming them. So I would just love to have you as a part of the Personal Development School community. So thank you so much for watching this webinar. I'm really excited that you have the chance to learn a little bit today. And if you have any questions, you can also reach out to me. And I hope you got a lot out of this and you enjoy it. And I look forward to seeing you in the Personal Development School community soon. Thank you so much.